are back. We brought him back. We listened to you. He is back again on the Friendly Men. We have the second coming of Christ. John Christ, of course. We have... Hell yeah! We also have joining us, we have Adam Fletcher from the Copyright. Say hello, Adam.
Hello, everybody. Hi, world. Hi.
And we also have Barrett, drummer of Deathmourn, also Giznad historian. Say hello, Barrett. Can you do the How the Gods Kill? I want to hear that. Bam, 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 wow, wow. I want to hear that. That electric lead is so good. It just. It goes through your veins, man. Down, 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 down.
Yeah.
It's easier on the bitch. This guitar is a little bit harder.
John, Beavis and Butthead just put out a new movie about 2 weeks ago.
Beavis and Butthead do the universe.
How did the Beavis and Butthead show, in fact, impacted the Danzig career? Because you guys had 3 videos on Beavis and Butthead.
It had a major impact, I think. When they first came out, you know, they were just a little novelty. Funny story, I had a roommate at the time, and he was totally into that show. And I was like, what the heck are you watching? This is stupid. And he's like, no, man, you got to check this out. You got to check this out. And so he had me, I started watching. Next thing I know, they're playing one of our videos. And, you know, Beavis is like, hey, I bet that guy could kick Axl Rose's ass. And, you know, then they go into one of our videos. So it was a few months later, I started getting phone calls. You know, I still don't think we had email at that time. And people were calling up and saying, hey, man, they're playing you on Beavis and Butthead all the time, and it's leading to more airplays on local radio stations and all this kind of stuff. And our publicity department started going nuts. And it was probably about 6 to 9 months later when one of the VPs said, hey, you know what, we should re-release Mother. And I think it was partly, not completely, but in part due to that new exposure that we were getting. You know, they thought it was cool that they were ripping a chicken apart and there was blood everywhere and all that kind of stuff. So we didn't re-release the original video, but, you know, they remixed and remastered it and put it out. And next thing you know, it was in the top 200 and climbing the charts. And I don't think it ever made top 40, but it was in the top 100 for sure.
Butthead actually makes a reference to the other video during the Mother 93 video. Butthead said, hey, didn't they make another video of this? And Beavis is like, yeah, they did.
Hey, Butthead, didn't that song have another video?
Yeah. This song is so good they had to do it twice.
Really?
So that was the one that was originally banned from MTV. So back in 89, I think. So we couldn't get any airplay except on Headbangers Ball.
Hi there, welcome back to Headbangers Ball. We're coming to you from Phoenix in Arizona, bringing you an exclusive and rare interview with Danzig. And as you know, we've joined the guys on their US tour, and now we're backstage down at the Geek, the Mesa Amphitheater. And as you can see, I've got John joining me now, and Glenn's still with us.
So it was, Friday or Saturday night at midnight. You might see it once or twice. So this was a total revival, and there were people, by this time, a lot of people had changed in MTV, and they were getting a little heavier. They were playing a lot, more of the progressive stuff. So by that time, it was great. They put us out there, and they were giving us more plays, and I thought it was awesome. My phone would ring. I have all these messages. Hey, my cousin would call from, Seattle, Washington. Hey, I saw you on Beavis and Butthead. And then I get a call from Florida. Hey, I saw you on Beavis. It's just like, that's all people cared about. I'm going, geez. But it worked. It was a lot of fun. It definitely helps. Definitely helped. Mother 93 came out, and we shot that video at Irvine Meadows, California on Halloween, and it was a crazy show. And, the audience we were trying to record that show, but the audience was so nuts that most of the recording was unusable because there was so much crowd noise bleeding through the microphones that they just couldn't use much of it, And on the back cover of that, I may have told the story before, but you'll see a bunch of people on stage in yellow jackets. They broke the barricade, and as soon as Mother started, boom, they smashed the barricade and were up on stage amongst us. And so security had to push them back and move everybody off stage. And we were yelling at security, crouch down, they can't see us, they can't see us. It was pretty funny. And there were pictures, on one of the shots, you can see Jesse James. He was our head of security at the time. He's wearing a wife beater, and he had a blonde hair with a ponytail on the back. And I tell people, I know Jesse James. They're like, no, you don't. I said, yeah, look at the back of that album. That's him squatting right there.
So,
see, I know somebody famous.
You met a lot of famous people. Did you get along with all the celebrities that would be backstage at your shows, or?
Yeah, your time with them is so limited, but that was some of the best parts. When we got to tour with Slayer, that's when I met Tom Araya, and his little brother ended up coming to work for us a few years later, Johnny Araya. And so that was on that first Slayer tour. That we did like 6 or 7 cities. That was our first tour ever, and in the States. And then Metallica was our second tour. So we got to hang out with them. And then 2 years later, we got to open up for Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio.
Wow.
So I got to hang out with Ronnie James Dio and Tony Iommi. I got to touch his guitar and got pictures of him backstage. It was amazing. Eerie Von put out a book called Misery Obscura.
Yeah, that book's great.
Yeah, there are a lot of pictures, a lot of backstage stuff. He took a lot of pictures of that stuff. So, that was a lot of fun. I got to, when we toured in Europe, met Lenny Kravitz. I got to meet Robert Plant. It was just, unbelievable.
You got to meet Giger too, right? The artist?
I wasn't at that meeting. Everybody else, I don't know where the heck I was, but I must have been visiting family or something. Everybody else met him. So I missed that one. I think I could have been interviewing Ozzy Osbourne for Rip Magazine or something. I was writing a couple of articles for magazines, and I got to interview my heroes, Ozzy Osbourne and Ted Nugent. It was actually Ozzy Osbourne was the one that told me to quit the band.
No shit.
And you know what's funny, John? You are one of Barron's heroes, and many others, actually.
I thought Chuck Biscuits was Barrett's hero.
Oh, him too, yeah.
You know that you've been referred to as a legendary drummer.
I know.
His stage presence as a drummer is just so amazing. Sits so high above the drums.
So Chuck Biscuits was held together by duct tape.
Explain this duct tape.
It was duct tape, Budweiser, and Folgers, and Winston cigarettes.
Oh, shit.
Chuck's hands after a show just looked like hamburger meat.
Yeah.
His knuckles were bruised and bloodied, and big chunks of meat taken out. If you went behind his kid after he played, there was sawdust everywhere.
Yeah.
Every time he hit the snare, it was a rim shot.
Every time.
And even when he did rolls, he would do rim shot rolls. And he played with big, thick crash cymbals. And his
sticks were like 2x4s.
Yeah, what were they called? DC-10s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the rack tom was big, huge rack tom, huge floor tom, massive sound.
Pretty much standing up. So I know his shoulders and knees. I heard rumors that later on he was having stuff, but he got really nervous before shows. So the way he relaxed is he would drink like 3 beers before he hit the stage. And as you see him on stage, he's drinking 1 water, 1 beer, 1 water, 1 beer. It wasn't like George Thorogood, 1 scotch, 1 beer. He was just one water, 1 beer, 1 water, 1 beer the whole night. So he might drink 6 or 8 beers or something, but he's putting out so much energy.
Oh, sweat. I bet he was sober by the end of every set because you sweat that out so much that, yeah.
Problem with Chuck, we had these rhythm wars because he just kept wanting to play faster and faster and faster. And I would try and slow it down. So I'd be tugging back. And then Glenn would come in and Glenn would want it faster, so it was like,
right.
I go, Chuck, what are you doing? He's like, it's him, it's not me. I'm like, and they'd yell at me, JC, it's too slow, it's dragging, because they're feeling the energy from the crowd, they want to get going. Yeah. And so, you hear any of our live bootlegs and stuff, and you're just like, oh my God, there's no pocket whatsoever. It's just
too fast.
Off to the races.
Yeah, and that one Am I Demon bootleg, it's like trouble times faster than the original because you're going
Yeah, there are a couple of great bootlegs that came out of Texas. I don't know if they were Austin or Dallas or Houston, but I remember getting cassettes of them. And the mixes were good, the band was good, but the tempos were hot. They were fast. I can remember going, man, I didn't know that I could play those leads that fast and still get back to the rhythm part in time.
But when you play the same set every night and you do that over and over, you just become a machine.
You just do it
faster and faster and it just builds up to like the Ramones,
That's it. And
I think after the 90s Ramones versus 1970s, and it's like so much faster, and they just been doing it.
You're not even straining at that point. You're just kind of, you feel it, and you look at somebody in the band and you just smile, you shake your head, you're like, you're doing it again.
Going fast.
You just dig in. Or you're looking at the fans and the fans are driving you to go faster, and you just look over your shoulder at the drummer and you're just like, sorry, man, they're just, I can't help it. I got to go.
Your feelings for after you got into band, when it was still Sam Hain, about the name change to Danzig, were you down with that or what?
No. So here's the thing. Initially, it was sort of like, okay, the band is Sam Hain, right?
Right.
I'm joining Sam Hain, and it's like, okay, and this was before Chuck was in the band, so it's like whatever I got to do. And it was just like, okay, get rid of your blue jeans, get rid of your white t-shirts, all your color. You're only going to wear black, nice and easy, 124, dye your hair, blah, 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 blah. Wear black boots. Okay. And then it was like a month later, London May was gone. He was just, boom, kicked out. And now we don't have a drummer. So now we get a drummer. So it's like Chuck. So we were Sam Hain and Erie and Glenn, they printed up t-shirts. So we're wearing all this Sam Hain t-shirts, and Glenn is mailing shit out to Metallica, and they're wearing it on tour, and it's in magazines, and you're seeing Sam Hain and Misfits stuff everywhere. And, there's this buzz, and we were like, okay, Sam Hain. And Chuck and I were sitting around, we were rooming it together at the time. We had all these name books. We were trying to come up with a name for me. It was like John Von Christ, John Wolf, John Black, John White, John Green. We go through all these baby books trying to come up with names, but everything was Sam Hain. We had gotten a new manager, and I was home visiting folks in Baltimore, and I got a call from London May, and he was all upset. I'm like, what's going on? and he's like, "Oh, I'm filing a lawsuit and I'm suing you guys and this and that, and don't you be surprised if, Glenn's going to change the name. It's not going to be Sam Hain anymore." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever, whatever, whatever." I didn't believe him. It's a couple months later. It's like, we're at a meeting with Rick and Glenn and down in the village, and it's like, yeah, well, there's some lawsuits. People are coming back, so we're going to change it to Danzig. And Rick Rubin goes, "I like it. There's a Z in it. It's cool." Any word with a Z in it is cool. Danzig. And so Erie and Chuck and I were kind of bummed. We were like, really? Because we'd gotten used to Sam Hain already.
Right.
Yeah, do you feel like that decision maybe like changed the band dynamic in a weird way, where now it really was all Glenn?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when you joined the band, though, how were the fans reacting to you? Because, they had different members in Sam Hain, and then here's this new guy, John Christ. Did the fans, were they open arms about you, or were they a little bit hesitant?
No, because it was a completely new entity. The difference, I don't know, you cannot compare Sam Hain to Danzig. It's like a Volkswagen to an Abrams M1A1 tank.
Yeah, it's totally different. Yeah.
The power that we came off with, the intensity that we came off with, the songwriting structure, the production, everything was just completely different world level. I mean, the Sam Hain stuff sounded like shit. The records,
horrible. Yeah.
It was just bad. Okay, it was punk rock production at its finest. It was just low budget stuff. All right, Glenn's a great.
I don't know if I'd say it was its finest. It was maybe it's cheap budget, but there's some charm. There's charm to it, but yeah, you're right. It's definitely a total game changer.
I mean, that's right. They gave it a shot and they did what they could locally, but they did it all themselves. They put it out.
Right.
They got it out there. Everything. Glenn did everything. The artwork, the mixing, the mastering, getting the distribution, everything, the booking, the shows, the buying the step vans and sleeping on people's floors. He did that old punk rock stuff, and selling T-shirts and they were albums. They didn't have CDs at the time. Out of the back of their vans after shows and everything. That's old school. That's the way they did it. Right. I come in, suddenly, boom, like you said, my first deal, I'm in Atlantic Studios. I'm in Sorcerer Sound. I'm in Chungking. We're 2-inch tape. We're 24 tracks. We're 48 tracks. I'm with Rick Rubin.
I don't know if it was covered in the previous one or not, like, were you involved in like the music scene that was happening like before you joined Danzig, or did you just kind of like, were you in bands that toured, or were you doing anything before?
I was a music snob. I was a jazz composition major at a university, studying with the guy who wrote the song Whiplash.
Okay.
That movie Whiplash?
Yeah.
Okay, so the guy who wrote that was this maniac named Hank Levy. And so I'm studying with him, and he was just like nuts. So I was still a rock and roll guy. Like, I had a Marshall half stack in my dorm room, and whenever there were parties or whatever, I'd be cranking that thing up and getting everybody in trouble. But during the week, it was like I had to be focused on jazz guitar and jazz bass and jazz piano and jazz composition and all that. And it was Christmas break when I got into the whole audition thing. And it was quite a culture shock to go from school back to that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Because my circadian rhythms were still like, okay, I got a couple more weeks off and then I'm going back to school. I didn't consider that I was gonna join a rock band and move to Jersey and then move to California and do records and hit the road.
Your story is crazy. I mean, it's just so crazy to be like your first band, you're instantly like in a tour bus and on a major label and making like this amazing. It's almost cosmic in this kind of crazy way that you're like the missing piece of this puzzle, that really your guitar playing defined what I think is Danzig's sound. I mean,
so here's the thing, and that's exactly right, because when my friend, my neighborhood, then high school buddy came and said, "Hey, there's this band, Sam Hain in New York, and they got a couple of their own albums out, but
Yeah.
CBS wants to sign them on Def Jam, but their guitar player sucks, and they need a guitar player, and they'll get the deal." And I said, "I'm not interested." 6 months later, he came back. It was Christmas time. He goes, "They're still looking." And I said, "All right, the drummer lived in Baltimore. I said, "All right, bring him over. I'll meet him." And so I had a month off, for college, right? You got like 6 weeks off or whatever. And I said, "I got some time." And so I checked it out. And it wasn't until I went up, the first audition, then I hung out with Rick Rubin, and he took me to Electric Lady Studios, and the Cult was in there recording their electric.
Right.
Nobody knew who the Cult was at the time, right?
Yeah, right.
It was some British band. But
Yeah.
I was sitting behind Hendrix's board in the studio, and Ruben was sitting there listening to tracks. They were doing Born to Be Wild, and the music was so clear, and these Yamaha NS10s were pumping. It was pushing my hair back with the kick drum and the snare drum, and I'm going, "Oh my God, this is what I want to do forever." Then I came home and said, "I got to get this gig." There was, after that meeting, there was no chance in hell that anybody else was ever going to be in that band except for me.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, it's had you not taken that chance, I mean,
that was it. And here's the thing: that second audition, I came up the whole story about I couldn't get the second audition because Rick Rubin wanted me to come back. He wanted me in the band, but Glenn didn't. And so they said, "All right, give him a second audition," and Glenn wouldn't return my calls. That's when I cranked my Marshall into, used up all his
machine.
All that stuff. So I did that. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that second audition was the night before my spring semester started. I'm freaking out because I already got my clothes at school. I got my classes. I got everything ready to go, and I'm like, crap, I got this audition. I got to go to New York, then I got to drive back 4 hours, and then I got.
You had to make a hard choice there. What am I going to do? College or play music? Really?
And that was the whole thing. I mean, initially I wanted to get the gig just so I could turn it down. That's how cocky I was at the time.
No wonder Glenn didn't want you in the band.
No. But that it's part of that friction that kind of made it work, though.
Yeah.
Of course. It's like, because of course Glenn knew everything, and I didn't believe that. According to me, I'd forgotten more than he'd ever learned as far as music went, because I was a jazz guy, we knew everything. Right. And but he'd had all that experience. So,
but the combination of both things really, it made it like it was a perfect thing.
He was a great songwriter, and he could wail on vocals like I'd never heard. I mean, he made the hair stand on the back of my neck, and give me chill. Just talking about it, it's Ryan. I'm getting chills right now just thinking of it. He could, with power, he's hitting high A's and high B's, and I'm going, who does that? Nobody.
Yeah.
Then when Chuck Biscuits got into the band, it was just like an explosion. To me, that was the whole thing.
I want to ask you about that too.
Yeah, when we started, Erie and I, we went in and we met Chuck, and we, he rented a kit, and we went to some crappy rehearsal studio in Manhattan, and we just started jamming. It was like, holy crap, what happened? It was like a bomb went off, and it was fun because he knew a lot of Zeppelin stuff, and I knew some Zeppelin stuff, and some and some Who. So we were kind of jamming, and Erie didn't know any of it, but we were just like, play E, play G, play B, okay, and then that was the audition basically. And
watch Chuck Biscuits smack the drums, and then
yep, he had this Freddy Krueger sweater that he wore for years, right?
Yeah.
Blue jeans, black leather boots, black hat, Freddy Krueger sweater, and all he brought with him, he brought like a hockey bag, a set of sticks, and a kick drum pedal. That's all he brought from California.
Was it he had just left Black Flag?
He'd been off the grid for a while.
Okay.
We had to dig him out of some hole, and because we wanted to audition Filthy Phil.
Oh. From Motorhead. Wow.
Yep.
That would have been something.
Yeah, and we were trying to do that, and that didn't work out. And Chuck came out, and and it was just like one audition, and I was like, all right, this is a guy.
Yeah, it's crazy you missed all that van touring and silk screening your own shirts part of the whole process. Because most of us most of us and most people that play music, that's what you do. You know, you kind of like have to do that yourself. It's amazing that you stepped right into that.
So that was, that was the thing. But it was sort of like they needed what I did, and I needed everything they'd done before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a perfect combination. Like if Glenn hadn't done that work all the way up till Danzig, then it just, the audience was building bigger and bigger and bigger.
And here's what happened. Yeah, I could play. My fingers were fast. Okay, I could play hard. I could play fast. I could solo like crazy. I could do all that stuff, and too much because of the jazz stuff, and my ego was out of control. So they had to keep toning me down. But it was Erie that taught me about what punk rock was. He made cassette tapes of all the early Cro-Mags and Bauhaus and the Misfits and TSOL and DOA and Black Flag, all the bands. He made me dozens of cassettes and said, listen to this stuff, stuff. And he schooled me on it, and that's when he was going to the gym, so we became workout buddies. We trained like 5 to 6 days a week every day, and we listened to all this stuff. Chuck, he didn't want to exercise. He wanted to drink coffee, smoke cigarettes, and draw cartoons. That's what he did.
Yeah.
That's all he did. And drank beer.
It's crazy.
Did Glenn go work out with you guys or no?
Glenn liked to work out at home. Every once in a while, we would drag him down there, but he was like, nah, because his schedule was different.
I love that the guy in the band with the most physical job is the one that's like,
that's right.
I'm just gonna smoke
That's right. Smoke and drink coffee.
I'm just gonna eat this cheeseburger
We were so poor when we were roommates living together. Like they scraped. Glenn managed to get us a little advance, and it was like $150 a week. So I was making $600 a month, and my rent was $300 a month. That was, so $300 for rent plus utilities, whatever. And Chuck and I were rooming together. So both of us, half of our money went to just, the other half. And the rest, he smoked and drank.
John, the first interview, we've been getting a lot of responses of people saying how you influenced a lot of people.
Well, I appreciate that. I didn't, at the time, we didn't think about it. We were trying to cross the bridge between punk and heavy rock. I was kind of a straight up metal guy, and Glenn and Erie were sort of punk rock meets blues, so. And then we brought Chuck Biscuits, who was punk rock, but he loved Keith Moon and John Bonham, and then all these ingredients kind of went together. And Rick Rubin was able to slow everything down a little bit. I can't imagine how fast My Demon would have been without Rick Rubin. It would have been super fast. It just been going crazy. So,
John, I had a question about the style of the first 4 Danzig albums. A lot of those songs have kind of like a shuffle or like a swing feel to them, and the older Danzig or the more recent Danzig albums don't. Whose influence was that?
Well,
like on songs like Bodies and She Rides, Long Way Back from Hell.
Bodies, there's not much shuffle, That was just 1, 2, 3, da ba ba da bum bum bum. What was the other song you said?
Like Long Way Back from Hell.
Long Way Back from Hell. Yeah. So that, to me, that was straight up. Funny thing about that though is the dive bomb ideas were Glenn's. He said, I want the guitar to just go crazy. I'm like, you mean you want to start the record with a dive bomb? He's like, yeah. I was like crazy. I was like, all right, cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
So I think that was the thing, Glenn, it was his band. He had the vision, and my thing was just like, all right, let's make it fatter and bigger and as heavy as possible. And I was always pushing heavier, 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 and they would always have to pump the brakes on me and say, whoa, 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 it's heavy enough. We don't need 22 guitar tracks chugging away, let's go for 4. And I was like, all right, and I'm like, but what about this overdub? What about this? No, too many notes, slow down, just bend the string more. So you hear, by the time we got to, How the Gods Kill, the guitar parts were very precise. The chugging was heavy, but it was under control. It was layers, but it was thick.
Right.
In the early days, there wasn't as much gain. We were using Les Pauls and Marshalls and pushing the amps, and we were using Neve. If you've heard of the mixing consoles, the British ones, Neve, Neve. Famous Beatles used them, right? George Martin. But they had these great, what they call mic preamps, but the EQs in them, there's just a 3-channel, and the mid-range on that is just unsurpassed. It's just an amazing sound, and a good engineer can notch it. It's like 2 or 3 different notch settings you can get, and all that chunk, that original chunk, was coming from those Neve mic pre's. And when I went to do solos, all I did was throw in like a Boss EQ pedal or an overdrive on top of that chunk. And that was the sound, that's how it started.
Oh, so were you basically just a Marshall and a Les Paul for the first Danzig, first couple?
Yeah, the first one, because I started with Marshalls, and I had an old Laney Pro lead that I would use for solos and stuff. I had my BC Rich.
That's what I was going to ask, if you were always a BC Rich guy or if you...
I was always...
off with Gibsons.
I started off with Gibson copies.
Oh.
I couldn't afford a Gibson. So there was there was a brand called Univox.
Yeah.
Right? And they made a Les Paul copy. And so I was playing that thing. And then I went right from that to a BC Rich. It's a funny story. It was like I was a junior in high school, and I wrecked my dad's car into my dad's van on a vacation. I came home hammered at like 2 o'clock in the morning trying to parallel park, and I smashed one car into the other and tried to hide it. They came out the next morning and saw it. I was still hungover. And he's like, that's it, son. You're going home. You're getting estimates. You're going to get a job, and you're going to pay for this by yourself. And I was like, oh, crap. What am I going to do? So I get a job at a steakhouse flipping steaks. And, within 6-8 months, I paid off the car, fixed them everything. And then I started working overtime. And I was getting Guitar Player magazine. I flipped over. I don't remember what issue it was. But on the back, there was a picture of Joe Perry leaning against a bunch of stacks with a red 10-string BC Rich bitch, and I was in love. I had to have it. And so I put that picture above my bed, and I just taped it and looked at it every night and kept getting extra shifts. And eventually, I ordered one of those guitars. Took a year to get it from California. I got it. So fast forward to the Danzig stuff. We're starting to record. We did a handful of different sessions before we actually got the finished tracks. Rick Rubin was working on the soundtrack for Lesson Zero, so he was in and out. So in between, we did a couple of shows with Slayer. Well, on the trip to LA, my BC Rich neck got broken on the airplane. We didn't have proper road cases, and it got broken. So my Les Paul made it. I borrowed a BC Rich from
surprising.
Yeah, my Les Paul made it, and I borrowed a BC Rich from Kerry King of Slayer to play.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. So by the time we got home, started working on the record, my guitar still hadn't been repaired yet, so I was using Les Pauls for that.
Okay.
So it wasn't until we got to the solos and everything that I came back with the BC Rich. So the second record is some Les Paul and mostly BC Rich. Those are
your two kind of go-to
Yeah, but
guitars for
by the
recording.
end, by the time we hit the road for the second record, I bought a few more BC Riches, so the Les Pauls were just backups. They sounded great, but they didn't play well.
Sure. Were you sponsored by BC Rich or anything? I mean, you
Never.
seem like an all net really.
I made friends with the owner, Bernie Rico, and he wanted to make me a special guitar, and then he died. You know, and his son took over, and his son had some substance issues, and they sold the company and all this kind of stuff. Well,
and Roman, I believe, maybe had it at one time or something. But
just this week, I got an email from somebody at BC Rich wanting to talk.
Wow, cool!
Oh, congratulations, man!
Awesome. You should.
And I was just telling Jim the week before that I got an email from Gibson. They want me to come out and do one of those Riff Lord shows.
Cool. Yeah, do it. Oh, really?
Maybe I can put those guys against each other. Maybe I can put Gibson against BC Rich a little bit and see.
Oh yeah, a bidding war.
Maybe I'll get a discount this time.
Well, I was gonna ask, just the quality of those early BC Rich guitars, like really in the era when you were playing them, is impeccable. Like they're amazing guitars. Do you have a stack of them hiding in your basement somewhere? Were you buying so many that you were kind of like stacking them in the closet? Like, do you have a guitar collection of amazing BC Riches? That's kind of what I'm asking.
No, because the most I ever had were 4, and one of them was just for parts, and then one was a hardtail, so I kept that one, and one is in the Hard Rock Cafe.
Oh well,
I have one original one that's my main one that pretty much stays in the case all the time unless I brought it out for this interview last time, but it's I take care of that one because that's like the guy. And then the other one's traveling around in Hard Rock Cafes along with a pair of boots and some buckles and stuff like that. And one of my favorite ones was, I told the story last time, we got, Rick Rubin bought it for me from Tracy Guns, but it was this horrible puke lime green. So we painted it black, but it sounded great because it was originally a 10-string, so the body was a little bit bigger.
Right.
And that's the one I used a lot on the second record, especially for Her Black Wings and Killer Wolf and stuff like that. Had a really smoother, darker sound. What's your main axe?
Oh, I have a 1999 Fender P bass. Well, it's a PJ. It has the P bass and jazz bass, the deluxe. I play the bass. So
which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the P bass or the jazz?
I use both. Okay. Everything on full blast. My guitar, though, I have you were talking about cheap Japanese guitars. I have an 80s Japanese Electra hollow body. That's just
oh, nice.
Pawn shop guitar, but it's an amazing early lawsuit where it's just as good as a Gibson.
Well, I'm sitting with a Japanese guitar right now.
Yeah, I know. I know. Sorry, I worked at a vintage guitar store for like 14 years, so I was kind of immersed in the vintage instrument world for a while. So,
was your setup, guitar and amp setup, the same in the studio that it was on stage?
No, the setup, whatever happened on the record would determine what was going to happen on stage. After the second record, we started doing things a little bit more dynamically. I had to start adding amplifiers and some switching stuff. By the time we finished How the Gods Kill, it was like I had a full Bradshaw rig, because songs like How the Gods Kill, going from that low part to that high part, you're going from quiet to just like, overdrive. And so that necessitated the switching. But I always work with our sound engineer, Rick Didymo, our mixing engineer, for the live stuff, and we always had a center dry cabinet, left and dry wet, left and right wet, but always a center drive. And those engineers in the studio, it was like Brendan O'Brien, who worked with Stone Temple Pilots, and Nick DiDio, who worked, George Satellites, a bunch of other people. Jim Scott, I know I'm leaving a couple of guys out, but they were amazing at getting tones, and I would describe the tone that I was looking for. And the biggest thing, I don't know if you guys find it when you're in the studio, is that when you're in the rehearsal room playing, you know, and it just sounds great in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you get into the studio and you start miking things, it's like you're taking this big room sound and then it's going into this little microphone diaphragm going through all these wires and all this kind of stuff. And by the time it gets to tape, you know, it's so hard to recreate what your ears were hearing.
I wanted to ask, was How the Gods Kill on tape, or were you doing digital recording by
No,
that?
that was tape. Yeah, that was tape.
Okay.
And thankfully, by the time with the first record, you know, we didn't even use a slave. We just did everything 24 track.
Wow.
I think the second record, we were using 2 decks, and it wasn't really until the third that we had everything slaved, because the tape's rolling over those heads so many times, you lose so much of the drums.
Yeah. Right.
And the bass tracks, they just go away. And that's why you create the slave tracks for the overdubs, and it's, you retain the purity, right, of those initial tracks. So, you know, and the mixing, whenever you're mixing, you know, those machines with all the SMPTE time code and everything, they're, you know, and when you're editing, we were still cutting tape.
Yeah.
And different colored tapes and putting stuff on the wall, you know, it was crazy. When we were when we were mixing our third record, I think that's when Metallica was recording the Black Album. Okay?
Do you have any memory about you guys were recording the first record at one of the studios in New York City, and I can't remember which one, and it could be Chungking, but the New York hardcore band Youth of Today was also recording at the same time. They were doing the album We're Not in This Alone, and they had painted the walls in the studio white, and you guys were leaving graffiti on the wall, like making fun of each other. Do you remember any of that?
Well, I remember we would, yeah.
I just heard this story in an interview with them the other day, and they mentioned like they wrote some shit about warlocks or something on the wall.
Oh yeah.
And,
so Glenn and Erie, you know, were the wise asses, but Chuck was the real cartoon, you know, and they would write stuff and draw over everything, and you know, we hate white.
Right.
We like black and purple, and that was about it.
Were there any songs like in the set list when you guys would play a show, you're like, oh man, this song, I fucking hate this song, but all right, the fans want it. Did you ever get tired of playing some of these songs over and over again?
You know what? I think early on, the first record or two, because we were playing a lot of Misfits and Sam Hain stuff.
Yeah, you guys played Elvis too. You guys played Trouble.
Yeah, Trouble. And then we did real fast. We turned it into punk rock at the end.
Right. Oh, hey.
Don't mess around, don't mess around, don't mess around. Yeah.
All right, so here's something weird. We interviewed a guy. He was a singer for a band called Sloppy Seconds, and he played with you guys back in '89 in Indiana. He opened up for you guys, and he said,
I didn't really have any direct contact with him. You know, I mean, we just played our set, and I think Danny was still in the band. He talked to him a little bit after the show, and wasn't like going off on any of his rants or anything like that. He just Danny just told him, you know, I think this was when just after that first album was out. He was just on tour for the first album because he did the Elvis song Trouble was his encore, and it hadn't been released at that point. So that was just like a live cover that he did. And I think Danny said something like, you know, that was really cool. I'm glad we got to play with you. How's the tour been going? The guy said, well, this is the third night without monitors. I'm not real crazy about that.
Danzig is still having trouble with the monitor.
Yeah, I saw the footage of him kicking it and throwing it and stuff.
There was a phrase that we used on tour starting probably on the third cycle, and it was, "Friends, don't let friends do monitors for Danzig." We had guys came in like Van Halen's monitor guy, fired. Motorhead's monitor guy, fired. You know, all these great engineers fired. It was so hard for Glenn because for him to feel the power of the music and get into it, he really wanted the drums loud, he wanted the guitar loud, he wanted all this kind of stuff. And then he wanted the vocal to get over top of it. Well, the thing was, when nobody was playing, his vocals were super loud, right? They sounded amazing. But as soon as we started kicking in and playing, it was like the monitor started going away and away and away. And a couple of things, he used an SM58 microphone, which isn't the best vocal mic, but it's what he always used. And he would hold the microphone like 3 or 4 inches away from his mouth. So there's no way in hell that is
The upside down thing where you like point it at the monitor while you're standing over the monitor.
He points it at the monitor, he points it at the guitar amp, he points it at the drums, everywhere except his mug. I made the mistake several times of saying, "Glenn, the monitors are fine, it's your mic technique is sloppy." That almost ended several tours when I said that.
So there was no songs that you did not get tired of playing.
I got tired of playing songs like Sistina's. You know,
what about Can't Speak?
Can't Speak. Well, you know what? That was near the end, so we didn't even play it that much.
Oh, gotcha.
And initially wasn't even a song consideration on the fourth record. We were doing a song called "Let It Be Captured."
Right.
While we were in the studio, the engineer was playing around and he said, "You know what? Let's try and turn that guitar track around and play it backwards." And it had this amazing sound because when they did it with Glenn's vocals attached to it, it had this rip, 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 weird thing going on, but it changed the harmony of the song, sounded really cool. So they flipped the track around, they turned the tape around, they did all this kind of stuff. And then Chuck Biscuits went in and recorded a forward drum track to the other parts that were now also forward, even though they were technically being played backwards, right?
Yeah.
That became Can't Speak. And as soon as Glenn heard it the first time, he's like, "Oh man, I got lyrics are coming to me right now. They're coming. He started writing stuff down. And so I went back, and that was a nightmare because now I have a backwards guitar track on the album that I
have to play too.
I have to play to. I have to create a sound for this, right? So I bought a new piece of gear, a Boss like SE70 or something that had a reverse echo in it, and I worked on it for a week trying to get it so that I could get the reverse slap playback. So what I did was I taught myself to play the song backwards and then with a reverse effect on it, and that's how we did it live. And after I left the band, I was getting guitar techs calling me up going, "Dude, we can't figure out how to play that track. How'd you get that? How'd you get that
It was never
sound?"
played again.
Yeah, and he never did it live because they could never figure it out.
That's crazy. Wow. Who chose that as a single?
It was record label and management and Rick Rubin and Glenn. You know, and that record was so disappointing for me because it had the potential to be like a Black album for us, you know, and 3/4 of the songs weren't done when we went in and recorded them, and the production and shit was just slapped together. The thing is the studios that we were in were amazing. We were like in Ocean Way Studios and a couple other great studios in Hollywood. Some great engineers, and they polished that turd into a decent record. You know, it could have been a great record. You just run out of time and money. But Chuck Biscuit's drum performance and sounds on that record are epic in my opinion. It's just sad that the guitar parts were so weak overall. That's just my personal opinion. And a lot of it was repetitious and droning and all that. I like it a lot better now than I did back then, but that, that was one of the reasons. It was just, even Rick Rubin stopped really caring about the quality as much at that point, because they were in the middle of a session, we're recording, and Rick and Glenn are going to WWF events downtown and stuff, and it was just like, whatever, it's just the way it was going. But there was a lot of creativity on that record, but it was just, I don't know. I still have a bad taste in my mouth.
You did a whole circle. You answered one of my earlier questions. Which album was the hardest one to record? And
yeah, I guess that was it. Because if you look at How the Gods Kill, right? That was the first record where I actually got a budget, where I could rent equipment, where I could spend time with an engineer in the studio by myself, just creating tones and sounds.
A fan wrote a comment on your last interview and said, "Can you please ask John to play anything?"
Kind of like Mother.
Kind of like Mother.
Yeah, but I like it better than Mother. I don't know, the harmonies, the sounds, guitar tones. I think it's better structured than Mother.
It has to be incredible to start that opening riff of Mother on stage and just see everyone get so stoked.
That
like that has to be the thing you got in your back pocket, and you're like, could be at the end of the set, could be at the middle of the set, but as soon as you start that riff, everybody is like, yeah, Dan, on it. Like, that's got to be such a crazy feeling. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. That the tour managers, anybody that was at a show, from a record company, publicity, whatever they were, everybody waited for that.
Yeah,
and that always let us know how the rest of the night was going to go.
Yeah,
that's
the peak, right? That's like right at the beginning, but it's just you.
I look over my shoulder at my guitar tech or somebody, or over at Erie or back at Chuck, and just feel like, all right, here we go. Just bam, let her rip. Let's see what happens. Funny, I was getting ready to do that one night. We were at a gig in Germany, and as I walked out center stage to start the song, my wireless unit battery went dead.
Oh no, nightmare.
Nothing happened. I'm hitting the chords, and it was not, and I'm jiggling wires, and oh god, it was a nightmare, right? And of course, it happened for Mother.
Yeah, right, of course.
Fortunately, it was just a couple thousand people there, but it was just, and I had to do one of these. I'll be right back.
Yeah, let me go get some batteries.
But here's an interesting thing. Watching those videos of the early days of, you guys always played Mother like in the middle, or sometimes like the early into the set?
Because Glenn's voice, there's no way he's going to get those high notes later on. There's no way he couldn't get Mother. There's no way he couldn't get them.
Right.
And
you want that song to sound good, because that's the one people are stoked for. So
had to sound good. Yeah. Didn't want to do it right out of the bat, because you wanted to, place it somewhere, and he wanted to be warmed up. But it's at the top end of the range. And later on, we were 2.5 steps down, but still, it was a lot. And Glenn's voice, I mean, we couldn't do more than 2 shows in a row. His voice just wouldn't handle it.
I
So
wanted to ask you if you happen to remember any of Glenn's vocal tricks or as a singer, like things that help sustain your voice on the road. But obviously, if you only played 2 shows in a row, then that I understand that.
yeah, there were times when we would get 3 in a row, and that third one was, never
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Yeah,
Never
I
good.
understand. I always lose my voice on the third day too.
And it's tough. So what he would do, I mean, the biggest thing he would do, he drank a lot of tea and honey, and we prayed that we could get the monitors, somewhere.
If you could just get the right guy, you could get these monitors under control.
Well, in the end, what seemed to work, what we did have a few tours that were fairly successful. We took a quarter of the actual PA system and turned it towards the band.
Yeah, there you go.
And we would, if we had the trusses, we would fly the monitors up about 8,
and
10
point them
foot
at you, at Glenn's
Yep.
face. Yeah.
And angle them at his head.
Yeah.
And that seemed to work, for a while, because when he could hear himself, he had complete control, and he was brilliant. He was amazing. He was great, But just like any of us, when he couldn't hear himself the way he wanted to, he would get frustrated and angry and blow his voice out. And
Right.
it's just
You sing too hard and then you blow your voice
yeah.
out.
Luckily,
they have in-ear monitors now. So
now. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't blame
Which I
him.
hope Glenn still refuses to use.
Oh, I'm sure he does. 'Cause, I mean, he's still yelling at monitor guys. So
yeah.
But one thing, like you guys have sent me a bunch of live videos that I watched. Thank you very much. I love watching them. I'm going, man, I thought he sang more words than that.
Yeah.
He pulls the mic away a lot.
Right. That's true.
And there's just a lot of phrases that just are never finished.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He's watching the crowd, so maybe the crowd was doing it for him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, wow,
John, tell us a little bit about your solo album, Flesh Caffeine. Like, how did that come about? After you were out of Danzig, or it was a few years later, right?
I had a bunch of songs that during the Danzig years that I brought to rehearsals that got turned down. Glenn didn't like them or whatever, so I just shelved them and put them on a back burner. I still have stuff from that I wrote when we were in New Jersey in the 80s.
Wow.
That I haven't put out. For Christ's Sake was one of those.
Okay, yeah.
For Christ's Sake ended up on, what was it, Guitars Practicing Musicians Volume 3 or something like that.
Yeah, Chuck plays drums on that, right?
Chuck plays drums, I play bass and guitars, and it was just kind of like, a heavy metal Satriani type of thing. We did it in one day and put it out, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And then I still use that for guitar clinics and stuff, because it's got, a bunch of harmony guitars and parts going on that. But Flash Caffeine just started out like, I was like, man, I got to do something musical. I left the band in 95. It was July 5th, 95. Erie and I left the same day. Yep. We just could not get our contracts resolved, and Glenn would not talk to us, and it was just he was trying to make us employees, and we did not want to be W-2 employees. We'd been in the band for 9 years about, and it was ridiculous. So we'd had enough. That's one of the reasons Chuck left earlier, because it was, we were pretending like it was a band, and it was just like getting very corporate. So after I left, it was kind of, I got to do something. I was hoping that I was going to get Kirk Hammett, I was going to run into him and break his leg or something and take his gig. That just never happened.
Yeah, did you get any offers to join popular bands after you left Danzig?
No big offers. It was like, as soon as Erie and I left, it was like all the doors in LA got locked. It was just nothing.
Crazy.
I had meetings with like White Zombie's manager and a couple other people, and they said all great stuff and this and that, and sounds good, and but nobody ever called me back. and I realized, okay, you're on your own. You know, I did some soundtrack stuff. I did some television. My roommate worked for Channel 9 Australia in Hollywood, so I did some Australian television. I did some soundtrack, B movies, Stranger by Night, HBO type of stuff. Did some porno soundtracks. The only rock and roll thing that I really did was Juice 13 with the old singer from TSOL, and Randy Castillo was Ozzy Osbourne's drummer. And that was a brief
Okay.
period in '97. And that was like the most fun I'd ever had because, you know, Cheese Boy was a maniac, but Randy Castillo was a great drummer. Great guy, great drummer. And our styles just synced up really well, and we had a lot of fun. And we only did a handful of gigs together, and we did a fateful gig at the Key Club in Hollywood, and Sharon Osbourne and Zakk Wylde were there. And the very next day, they called him and asked him to come back to the band. So Randy went back to Ozzy, and that was almost the end of Juice 13. You know, it was like we tried to find a drummer, and now it's Francis Ruiz, who's playing in Buck Cherry, I think, and he's played in a bunch of these other bands. Great drummer, but he was just a kid at the time.
And you mentioned bootleg stuff. How much material do you think that Glenn or somebody is probably sitting on that's never been released?
All of it, because it was a big deal to try and prevent a lot of that stuff. But, you know, anytime we started playing a slightly bigger place, somebody was always recording. And when we were out there, you know, it was the, God, what was the Alesis deck? You know,
The ADATs.
ADATs, right?
Yeah.
They were on the big ADATs, which was like a VHS tape format, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They weren't the small DAT cassettes.
They're the big ones.
And it seemed like every production suite or management office in every venue had one in a closet.
Yep.
And there was always a camera, or there was always a recording device at it, you know, so it just always happened. There's no way to prevent it. And it's just a matter of when it comes. My whole thing is I just hope the show is good, you know. I mean, a guy sent me a bootleg from like our 14th show ever, and it was in Belfast, Ireland. And the fourth or fifth song, I probably told this story last time, but they pulled the fire alarm and they emptied the building. We were opening up for Metallica.
Oh, whoa.
And so it was a 45-minute break, and then we came back on. And that was the night, like, you know, the Irish kids, they were starved for American talent, and the way that they said they appreciated you was to spit loogies on you.
Oh, yeah.
It was incredible.
Gobbing.
Yep. And I still have stains on my Marshall cabinets to this day from that show.
Disgusting.
But this guy, a fan that lives in Maryland now, wrote me a letter and said, hey, I used to live in Ireland. I was at that show. And then he wrote me another letter and said a friend of mine recorded it. And then he sent me a copy.
Amazing.
He tried to clean it up, and I heard it on CD, and it's beautiful because not only does it document where they stopped the show, our first record had just come out. So we were playing everything just like we did in rehearsal, just like the album. We hadn't changed the endings yet. We hadn't started fancy fills. There were no extraneous guitar licks. Everything was just pure to the record. Glenn's voice was incredible. And it was like, oh my God, we were good. We were actually good.
Yeah. From the beginning.
From the beginning, we were actually a good band. I was like, okay, you know, I remember thinking so. But, you know, like I said, from my group, my background, where I came from, it was, you know, you're devil worshippers, you're a good Catholic boy, what the hell are you doing? Change your name to Christ and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And, you know, you're playing this evil, dark music. But I'm like, no, we're good. We're good. We're intense. We're heavy. We pummel. We punish the crowd. We beat them into submission. If they're still there at the end of 50 minutes, they're going to be tired because I know I'll be dead.
Yeah.
You know?
When you joined the band, did you get pushed back from your family?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
They supported me, and they, you know, they didn't tell too many people about it. But then a couple of years later, you know, they're hearing songs on the radio or getting albums, and And then by the time
you're on Beavis and Butthead,
when Beavis and Butthead, then every time I came home for a holiday, there was somebody sitting on the porch wanting an autograph.
Hey, John's back in town.
Mom and Dad, I'd be sitting there eating my, roast beef and peas and, gravy, and they would start bringing out magazine articles and newspapers for me to sign, and it was, would you mind signing thing for cousin Karen's son? And blah blah blah. Somebody else at work has a distant nephew, and in Puerto Rico that wants a signature. And then I was cool, right? Because everybody's looking at my parents for stuff.
Did you ever have like that annoying uncle that would make like really bad jokes, like, "Hey, you're making mother, huh? Like, when's brother coming out?" And you're like, "Uncle Sam, shut the fuck up." Like, did you ever have those annoying family members?
Every family does, and I had some military in my family.
Ah.
So that was always a thing, and I said, well, you know what, and they're like, why didn't you ever go to the military? I said, I could not cut my hair.
Why don't you cut your hair and join the forces, son?
They said you could play in the Marine Corps band, man. Hey, I'm gonna wrap this up. You know why?
Because
this is a classic ending, right?
Oh,
I
man.
have to wrap this up because I got to take my wife to church.
Hey, there you go. All
right. But hey, before you get started, John, thank you so much for spending time with us again.
Yep, thank you, John. We appreciate it for your time again.
Barrett, we'll be in touch, man.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll talk to you.
Adam, thank you so much, Adam Fletcher of the Copyrights, for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Adam, it was nice meeting you. Nice talking to you, man.
Nice talking to you too, man.
We'll get a face-to-face and jam sometime.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm down anytime.
John, we'll be in touch, my man.